you want to get into public speaking. You have things to say. You want to get it out there, but you're afraid. You're afraid of it. You're basically scared of the audience, scared of reaction, scared with what if I am no good sort of an attitude. This gentleman here with a lot of credentials knows all about that. This is Peter George. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
A fear of public speaking applies not just to business people, but a lot of people in general. Would you concur with that?
Oh, yeah. The anxiety level for just about anybody is there, whether it's high, low, it's there. There are a number of people that we wouldn't think are nervous about public speaking, and just about anybody you could claim or think of has had problems with it.
What do you think causes that? Just a general fear of what if everybody thinks I suck? I mean, pardon my phraseology, but
Yeah.
but that's pretty much it, right?
That pretty much nails it. Yeah, there's two theories, and it could be either or both. One is it's inherent with us. It goes back hundreds of thousands of years and went through evolution of if a bunch of eyes were looking at us, then we were probably in danger. So our primitive brain remembers that. The other is environmental while we were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't speak unless you're spoken to, don't speak to strangers, be seen, not heard, all these different things. And then, of course, exactly what you said. What if they think I suck? What if I can't connect with them? What if I'm boring? What if I?
Now, I can relate to that, having been in radio broadcasting, because you got lots of listeners and you don't know if they hear you, they're going to connect or whatever. I know how I overcame that, but how did you yourself? Those fears must have been inherent in you yourself, and you had to overcome them yourself. Am I correct?
Oh, you're dead on. I grew up with a lisp and a stutter, so I had two speech impediments to begin with. So I tried not to communicate with people through much of my early life. And by the time I got to high school, the lisp and the stutter subsided, although you'll still hear both if you listen closely. And I would communicate a little more, but not a lot. I learned that I wouldn't stutter if I spoke about sports, music, or business. And that's what I generally spoke with people about and avoided everything else. It wasn't until I got to the corporate world when I realized I had to speak in front of others to be successful. So I overcame it. Was it easy? No, not at all. Do I still get nervous when I speak? Every single time.
I think,
but not for the same reasons.
I think that people they're just inherently scared. Yeah, the whole "what if I suck" sort of thing. How did you yourself overcome it? Is it something you have to think about every time you get up to public speak, even now these days?
One of the greatest pieces of advice I was given, and I've lived by that ever since, is it wasn't about me. It's about the audience.
Right.
And it's always about the audience. So when we're saying, what if I screw up? What will they think of me? Everything is me focused as opposed to audience centric.
Mm-hmm.
And if we make it about the audience, is this head game? Maybe a little bit. But when we do create a presentation, it's with the audience in mind, not us in mind. It's what they're going to take away, what they want and need to know, as opposed to how I'm doing it and what they're thinking of me. So that gives us greater opportunity to engage and serve the audience as we need to. So the more you think of it that way and practice that, and let's face it, do it over and over and over again, the more comfortable you get with it.
So, and once you do that, you find yourself speaking with more confidence, actually.
Confidence is the major thing. I'll tell you what I absolutely love about working with my clients. And it's, do they get to be more effective public speakers? Do they focus their presentation on the audience? 100%. Do they learn how to use their body language and their voice? Definitely. But it's when I see a bulb go off over their head, not that they have an idea, but it seems like this bulb just goes off when they suddenly have a newfound confidence.
Yeah.
Something they didn't think they were able to achieve before. And that will permeate other aspects of their lives as well.
So body language is a major part of it. I mean, when you're not, of course, when you're on an audio thing, but on visual, like even now, this video, I'm looking at you with curiosity and fascination about what you're saying. So, and that'll happen in a public speaking concept too, because they'll just kind of get into it. A lot of people talk with their hands and do that kind of thing. And so it's all part of that. And once the confidence comes, more of this sort of thing comes. I'm just throwing stuff at you, but is that all correct?
Yeah, I like to say your body's always speaking to the audience. And the question is it speaking as you want it to, sending the message that you want, or is it speaking behind your back? It's doing one of the two. And hopefully it's supporting and fostering your words and your overall message. So depending on what we do with our body, like you can't see my lower half. Hell, you can't see anything lower than my chest. But watch what happens if I don't stand up straight here, if I stand on one hip, like many of us do when we're talking to others. My shoulders change, my head cocks, looks totally different. And you can see that difference just there, that it sends a different message. If we don't use our hands, or we stick our hands in our pockets, or even worse, behind our back, people will at an unconscious level start to question what we're hiding.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
they want to see our hands. We connect as human beings with our hands.
Mhm.
Even so, and you said if it's just audio, that may not be true. Many of us pace the house when we're talking on the telephone.
Yeah.
And I love when I'm on the phone and I put my earpods in ahead of time so I can use my hands when I'm speaking. People can see that. And as much as they can see without actually seeing it, they can hear, if you will, our body language. We, through body language, can actually, without hearing the words, get to know what people are talking about. You ever sit at a red light in a car and the people in front of you are having a conversation?
Yeah. Seen
And
that.
if their hands are kind of just lightly flying through the air as they're speaking, it's a nice, light conversation.
Mhm.
If a hand is like adamant and boom, 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 you know you don't want to be in that car.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's not a good conversation going on. So
Yes.
we read body language more than we think we do.
Wow. Well, I never thought of it that way, but that's quite fascinating. You give advice on how to do all this, right? I mean,
Yes.
you have clients that you are teaching to public speak and overcoming fears, and that body language thing looks like a major part, but all of it is designed to build confidence, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Not only in themselves, but the audience having confidence in them. Because if the audience doesn't have confidence in the speaker,
Right.
then why should they have confidence in their message?
And what you're saying. Yeah, because if you appear to be nervous and you're talking low and you're like unsure of yourself, they're not, even if the topic is good and relevant, they're not going to care, really, are they?
No, they won't be engaged. They
No.
won't give you the chance. And it's not that they're trying to get you up there and make you prove something, because let's face it, we all root for a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's out of protecting ourselves and protecting our time. No one ever went to their first class in a semester of college and say, man, I hope this professor sucks for the next 3 months. No one ever goes into a meeting saying, I hope this person sucks for the next hour before I get to go back to my office. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen that way. We want to be informed. We want to be entertained. We want to take something from that and walk away with something that's new to us or helps us. And that only happens when the speaker engages us and informs us.
Okay. As a public speaking coach, what would you say is the one major question, the question you get asked the most when you're first starting out with a client?
Question we get, well, two of them. One is, do I really have to be on video? And they do.
Yeah.
Because video helps a great deal. And what I do with video is I let the speaker, my client, I let them critique it first. And they're normally or usually more difficult on themselves than I'll ever be.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll start pointing things out, but that gets them used to the next time they see the video, they can say, "Ooh, I'm doing that better." Or what do you think about me doing this? How does that look? Or do you think that's an improvement? So critiquing is excellent on their end. Plus, I can point things out, just like, say, a golfer. A golfing coach can say, you've got a hitch in your swing. No, I don't. You've got a hitch in your swing. No, I don't. Let's watch the video. Hey, look at that. I have a hitch in my swing. So they see things that they wouldn't see otherwise if I were just explaining it to them. Okay. So that's number one. Do I have to be on video? Yeah. Probably the question that every public speaking coach gets more than any other question is, what do I do with my hands? Oh. We all already covered this a little bit, but use them. Use them as you normally would for all the reasons I said before. We connect through hands.
Yeah. And I just as we're talking, I'm noticing a few things I'm doing. Like I am standing up and I'm leaning on this desk right now like this. And you could probably tell I'm doing that.
Yeah, you can tell by people's shoulders what their bottom half's doing. And sometimes, depending on what you're trying to get across, like you'll see comedians do that. They'll walk up to a lectern or something else and they'll lean on it and cross their legs, but they're using that as an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
When we're doing that out of fear, trying to make ourselves smaller or get behind a big piece of furniture, that's really hindering us. It's not helping us.
Yeah. How would you say a public speaker would know if they've nailed a presentation? By audience reaction, maybe, or what?
Yeah. The last thing I ever want to hear when I'm speaking, and I tell my clients the same thing, is the last thing you ever want to hear is someone saying, "Good job."
Oh boy.
Because it probably wasn't. Now, it's different if I'm passing you in a conference room and you lean back in your chair and go, "Hey, good job," but that's all you had time for.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. But if someone comes up to you afterwards and they're speaking about you as the speaker, you probably didn't do as well as you think you did. If they're speaking about what they took away from it, I didn't know that. I'm glad to have learned that. I'm going to use that information. I thought that was amazing that I can now go do this. Mm-hmm. I couldn't have done that without being here. Mm-hmm. That's about them. And since we're there to serve them, if they're speaking about themselves and what they took away, that's how you know you've done a good job.
Oh, wow.
That good job thing, or I just want to tell you, man, you're passionate. Well, if passion were everything, I would have been a catcher for the New York Yankees.
And you're not.
And I wasn't. No,
you weren't. Yeah.
So It's not about passion. It's about engaging.
So I imagine the timing varies on when you first get a client to when they're basically, you're finished with them and they go out and they do their thing. What's the time frame? I mean, with starting with you, if I enroll in your course, how long is that course? Or it might vary between clients, I'm sure.
Yeah, the general one is 8 90-minute sessions, generally one a week.
Okay.
So you're looking at 2 months, and some go longer. I've been working with one speaker for years. I've been working for another one with just a couple of years now. So some go on much further, but for someone who's trying to get the basics and all, yeah, it's 8 90-minute sessions.
So this is a passion, obviously, for you. And
it's a great passion. I can't think of doing anything else in life other than maybe raising basset hounds for a living.
Assuming you have one, right?
I generally do. Our latest passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm a dog lover too, although we have cats at the moment.
Yeah, we've had those too. I didn't mean to make it sound that way, but I love the cats. I'm extremely passionate about basset hounds.
So you would say that, and this could apply to just life in general, and not for business or other presentations, but public speaking really is a fear. And speaking to people in general, even one or two other people, not a crowd, is a fear that pretty much every human being has. Would you go so far as to say that, or what's your take?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't make a difference. Public speaking is speaking to one person across a desk, 10 people in a conference room, 1,000 people in an auditorium. Mm-hmm. Public speaking is public speaking. If you're conversing, you're speaking with others. And I'll show you how much we think about ourselves when we're speaking to others. How often have you done this? I know I have. Or have you heard others speak of it, that they went to, let's say, a networking event.
Yeah.
And they walk up and say, "Hi, my name's Peter." The other person says, "Hi, I'm Chris." And 2 minutes later, you're thinking to yourself, "What's his name?"
Yeah, I've done that.
Because we're not paying, right? We've all done it. We're not paying attention to the other person. We're thinking about what we're going to say next.
Yeah.
All right. So we're keeping it in all about us, which when you get to networking, if you want to talk about it's all about the audience, if you want to make a connection and start a relationship with someone you just met, you make it about them.
That brings up another whole thing. The pandemic has forced, or did force, and is still forcing some people to not go to work in an office. I mean, everything is done on Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, all that stuff. So would you say it's easier to meet somebody electronically, virtually, than it is to meet them in person? It's a little bit removed. I mean, you can shut off the video if you want. That's a crutch. I mean, but you can, if like you and I mean, and Zoom calls when there's 80 people in there and everybody's talking, whatever. But then you go into the breakout rooms and you're meeting 3 or 4 people. So then you get a little bit more engagement there. Is it easier, do you think, to do that on a Zoom call than it is to sit around a table with those same 3 or 4 people? What do you think? I mean, psychologically for people.
I think it presents a different set of problems, if you will,
Probably.
and that you don't get that. You can get feedback from facial expressions and the like, but it's not quite the same. I don't think you can replace being in person.
No.
However, with that said, we built relationships in business or otherwise on the phone where we didn't
True.
get to see each other at all. We
True.
built relationships.
True.
So it's possible. I think a lot of people get caught up in that we're only 2 feet away, if you will. That's where my monitor is, 2 feet away from me. So, and then I can have 4 people who are only 2 feet away from me. Maybe that's a little crowded for me. It makes me nervous.
Yeah.
I get right back into me, though, and that's the problem. We always get right back into me. How do I look on screen? Is there anything in my teeth?
So
All these things that we worry about.
Overcoming the me thing is really what it's about.
It really, really is. You're actually here to serve your audience.
Right.
And again, that's someone you just met. They're your audience for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that you're serving them and helping them, that takes us even in the networking, going back to that takes us away from here's my card, here's my card, here's my card, which gets us absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Zero.
To, hey, how would I know that I'm speaking to your next best client? Well, they would have this problem. Cool. When I find someone that has that problem, I'll introduce you. You're serving them.
I started networking more via Zoom. My business was just kind of growing at that point when the pandemic hit. Since Zoom is everywhere, once I got over the bugs and the hacks for that, it went pretty well. And I got introduced to a lot of people, a lot of localized people in the Albany, New York, Lake George, New York area. And I gained some friends and clients out of that. So that was a good thing that way. People I wouldn't have been able to drive and go see very easily at the time. I've met a lot of people in the area over Zoom that I may not have met otherwise. I would say that in person is best, but Zoom is like second best, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll agree.
And the phone call would be somewhere there too.
Yeah, look how many people with phone calls, as great a technology that is compared to what came before it, which was virtually nothing other than telegraphs.
Mm-hmm.
Look how many people would rather put off a telephone call today to speak in person if they're going to see that person 3 days from now.
Yeah, I agree.
And that shows us how much we get from the other person's body language without even realizing it. If I'm speaking to someone and their eyebrows go up, my mind's telling me they're probably surprised or they want to know more. Now, I'm not sitting here going, hey, look, his eyebrows went up. He wants to know more. But my unconscious brain is telling me that.
Yeah.
So we read that body language.
Peter, we could talk about this stuff for a long time, and it's good. I'd like to ask you right now if you'd like to come on again at some point, a couple months, whatever, down the road. And
I would love to.
Be great.
I'd absolutely love to.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed this.
I want to ask you a couple of non-related questions.
Sure.
What is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Patton, General Patton. That's my favorite. It's hokey in a couple of spots, but I enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good one. If you had a time machine and were able to travel back or anywhere in time to see anybody you've admired, famous, non-famous, or relative, somebody that's been gone a while, whatever, who might you choose to go see and maybe have a conversation with?
2 real quickly. One is my dad.
Yeah.
And I'll go beyond that because that's such an easy answer. But one's my dad. He was my hero growing up. He died when I was 30. So I miss him greatly, and I'd love to talk to him, ask questions that I didn't ask that I should have about life or in general. But other than that, Benjamin Franklin.
Oh.
He was brilliant. And I would actually like to bring him here because I can't imagine what he could do with today's technology.
Oh, gosh. Yes.
Based on what he did with his day's technology.
Amazing. Love your answers. Peter George, public speaker. Oh, you have a book coming out. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it should be out by the very end of the year. The working title is It's All About the Audience. That won't be the final title, I don't think. But that's the working title because I want to keep it in my head that everything I'm writing about is helping the speaker, whether it's someone on stage, in meetings, selling, helping the speaker connect with the person or people they're speaking to.
Okay. You say it's due out later this year in 2021.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I look forward to speaking with you again. And until then, Peter George, public speaking expert. Live long and prosper.
Be well.
Thank you.